Thank you for reminding me about the great email that we picked up last night from Star Wars Fiend.
I curse you for this Husker performance I am currently viewing and can't turn away like a bad car wreck on the interstate. The blood of Fred Hoiberg will be on you for how hard he will destroy a whiteboard. I'm not sure what's worse, this performance or you guys nailed it on the head today. For the record, I didn't say they were going to lose yesterday. I just said that people were a little worried about this game, and I guess I could understand it a little bit, given that Penn State doesn't do a lot of things badly, but they had lost 11 of their last 12 and 7 straight.
And
there's a reason they're bad.
You ended up cursing them.
No, I didn't. What, because we talked about them?
Because you were like, that team sucks. There's no way anything horrible will happen tonight.
I didn't say that, though.
Meanwhile, Nittany Lions shot 61% from the field. Their best shooting percentage in a Big Ten game. Nick, how many years do you think it's been since they shot 60.7% from the field?
15.
Wrong. 18 years.
I was close.
Nick was like 9 years old the last time they did that. That is on you and you alone.
Well, no,
not
it's
Nebraska's fault. It's yours.
Because where everyone likes to blame me is when I say, well, this team doesn't shoot the three very
18.
well, so you don't have to worry about it. Penn State didn't beat Nebraska because of their 3-point percent.
Why did they beat them?
Well, they went 26 of 33 from 2.
That also will help.
A lot of lobs, a lot of dunks, a lot of layups.
Did they have 44 points in the paint?
It was embarrassingly easy.
Yeah.
At times.
Yeah.
For Penn State to score. It was by far their best offensive adjusted offensive performance of the year, according to Bart Torvik. It was Nebraska's second worst defensive performance of the year, according to Bart Torvik, barely behind the Rutgers game. It was bad. And as much as we talked about how Northwestern, hey man, this would have been a bad loss, this one actually is worse than that one would have been, because Penn State, again, 7 in a row, lost 11 of their last 12.
Terrible, man.
They're careening for a last place finish.
I don't understand. And I can't wait to talk to Robin in 40 minutes. I don't understand how this team can have such low lows. I just don't get it. I don't get how they can play this poorly. And like, they needed the wake up call on Sunday, right? The white, let's get the graphic up. The whiteboards coming for Fred Hoiberg, wanting to take him out. But he does that. And that is a break glass in case of, or break whiteboard in case of emergency kind of reaction to something, right?
Yeah, well, you're not going to punch a whiteboard every game.
Correct, because you can't. You can't do that. You can't all the time get mad and throw things, because at a certain point, it's going to lose its luster. And so he did that. And I think when you're a coach and you kind of resort to that when that is not who you are, it's like, all right, this is going to be the time that I do it because I'm pissed and I'm not happy.
Mm-hmm.
And they responded, right? They come back, they're down by 20, they get the victory. And so for them to roll out and to essentially have the same start, if not worse, the very next game, I just don't get how that can happen. I don't get how a team can have all these quad one victories, that they can go on the road in Eugene, Oregon recently, that they can beat Illinois recently, go all the way back if you want to November in the Creighton game. Like, they can do all of these things. And then they can put up these types of stink bombs. And now, so what is it? You got the Michigan State blowout. You got the Purdue blowout. You got the Wisconsin blowout. At least those fit a parameter of good, good, good. This does not. This is another blowout, and it's a bad, 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 bad team.
This one was good.
This one was good. Yeah, Penn State is good.
What this, and remember, if it's not for a 15-minute stretch of the second half at Northwestern, Nebraska's coming back here with 2 bad losses in a row.
Yeah.
So let's not pretend that even, sure, at the end of the day, you want the win. But when it came to how they played, they played very poorly for 25 minutes of the Northwestern game. They just happened to turn it into 40 minutes against Penn State. So this is... And that's coming on the heels of losing at home to Maryland, which, better team, obviously. But they haven't really put it together for 40 minutes in a couple of weeks. What this is telling me is this is a bubble team. This is what bubble teams do.
Sure.
They're teams that you don't know what you're going to get from game to game. They're not very consistent. They're not on the bubble technically, at least according to the bracketologists I've seen. Not that they've all updated since last night.
Should play like one though.
But they play like one. They have the persona. They have the reputation of being a bubble team.
Mm-hmm.
This is a classic bubble team where you just don't know what you're going to get from game to game. They can be really good, and they can really surprise some good teams. They can also play like crap and lose to bad teams. And they nearly lost back-to-back games to less than good teams.
They played now, 80 minutes since Sunday, and 15 of those 80 were good. So not even about a quarter of the game since Sunday. They probably played good minutes. Not great, man. Not great. And you're right. Like, they should be thankful that they have all the quad one wins in their back pocket. Now, Katie.
They should be thankful that they're 1-1 on this road trip.
Yeah, Katie says whispers. Their Q1 wins are folly because the Big Ten is vastly overrated.
Well, I mean, Nebraska is benefiting from the depth of the Big Ten. There's no question about
100%.
it. There's no question about it. I mean, when the committee came out with its bracket reveal last Saturday, there were no 1 seeds or 2 seeds from the Big Ten. They were 3s.
Mm-hmm.
It's a deep conference. It's not like it doesn't have a lot of great teams at the top.
Yeah, it's like how many teams in the conference, and I heard SVP and Stanford Steve doing this on the pod earlier this week. How many teams in this conference do you think, like, realistically can win the national championship? How long is that list? Because they were going through them, and Stanford Steve's like, I don't think this team. I think he maybe picked like 2 from the league. And so, they look, until the conference is able to win a natty, for the first time since 2000, right? When Michigan State won.
Mm-hmm.
So for the second time this century, until they do that, there will be a lot of doubt about them when they get to the tournament. And I think rightfully so, given the conversation we had recently about officiating and how officials call Big Ten games and how that changes. And, certainly we're going to be keeping an eye on St. John's and what happens with them in the tournament this year too, because of how they play and how they're officiated in conference play. But yeah, they're certainly benefiting from it, but it's just on one hand, like, I watch them on their good nights and I think, wow, this is definitely a better team than last year. I like the toughness that they have at times. And then you have a game like last night where it's just easy. And a team is closing in on 100 or on 50 points in the first half, and you're like, oh my gosh, they're on pace for 100 points or whatever it is. Not great.
This is a Penn State team that, for the most part, they've been, during the course of their losing streak, they were scoring in the 60s.
Oh.
They topped out at 75. But this wasn't a team that, was shooting the daylights out of the basketball. And yet Nebraska allowed them to really play very easily at the rim. And that's understandable if you're a team that's grossly outsized. But they weren't grossly outsized. This was a defense. This was a focus game. This was a defense and turnovers game. Because when you look at the raw shooting numbers, Nebraska shoots 52%. They're 7 of 21 from 3. They didn't give up. Games usually like this on the road, you end up getting bludgeoned at the free throw line. 9 of 11 for Nebraska, 13 of 14 for Penn State. This wasn't a game where, Nebraska was or Penn State was the beneficiary of a good whistle. It wasn't. But this was on turnovers and easy baskets at the rim. And a lot of those can be effort plays. A lot of that can be, that can break your spirit when you're doing things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing if another team is just shooting the lights out of the ball. But the reason why Penn State was north of 60% from the field was because they were getting point-blank looks. Again, they only made 8 threes last night. That's not obscene. And it was only 34%. That's not obscene. So this, we've been able to point back at some Nebraska losses in the past and say, well, this is a product of how they play defense. They gum up the post and they make you shoot a lot of threes. And it's worked for them at times. And at other times when they've been beaten, like at Purdue, by Wisconsin, it's because those teams are really good three-point shooting teams and they just shot them out of the building. That's not what happened here. Mm-hmm. Penn State scored 89 points by only making 8 threes and only getting to the foul line 14 times at home. That's scary.
And so like you said a few minutes ago, when you watch them, what do they look like? They look like a bubble team. And so, once again, they should be thankful that they are not on that bubble right now. Right. Though, it's going to be hard, of course, on Monday. Like this was such a massive win for them to pick up. First of all, for the obvious reason of like, okay, you get the extra win, so you would have had 18. You're suddenly 2 games away from 20 with 3 home games coming up. And it's a bad team. And so you didn't do that. Well, now you got Michigan coming into town. That's going to be difficult. And it's going to put, in my opinion, some of this extra pressure on these games that they have at the end of the year. Michigan is not a must-win game. It's not a must-lose. It is what it is. Minnesota is like a can't-lose game. Ohio State, it's a road game and it's going to be tough. Iowa, a team that already beat you, is suddenly, again, a can't-lose game. And so it puts this weird extra pressure on some of these games to finish up. And now the question is, will 19 be okay going into the Big Ten tournament? If no, can they get another win? If yes, I guess that answers the question. But would 19 be enough? Would 19 wins be enough? And again, there's a world where we wake up today and we're talking about a Nebraska team that's 18-9. They just need 2 more wins. Like everything is good. You're feeling awesome. And instead, it kind of puts these last 4 games into a much different light, especially the 3 home games, starting with Michigan on Monday.